from Washington. I want to thank all of you for your work that undermines the promise of democracy.
Please listen carefully. This is not a drill. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is not even anything you should not already know if you have been paying any attention this past decade. This is, however, literally the last chance to be able to do something about it before it is too late.
Hit the guy on the road. Hit the guy on the road. Roger. Hit the guy on the road. Over. Hit the guy on the road. You guys got the guy on the side. Roger. Okay. Clear fire. You're clear to fire.
The city is now under a state of emergency.
We are trained Marxists.
Totally euphemistic way to describe anarchy.
I mean, if you're going to burn down cities and defund the police, you're no friend of ours. I mean, these people are the same people that rigged an election, rigged an investigation, and rigged an impeachment process against the American people, and they lost all three.
A Tampa Bay pastor has been arrested for violating coronavirus social distancing rules.
We will shut you down, we will arrest you, and we will take you to jail. Period.
I'm starting to feel like I'm in a communist country.
Protests turned destructive in downtown Seattle tonight.
There are certainly aspects of them that are true to a cause. That is a good cause.
It says it right in the name, Antifa, anti-fascism.
We have a new vision for America.
Those who own guns will have to sell them to the government, all of them. You know, the critics call this confiscation. Are you proposing taking away their guns, and how would this work?
I am.
The privilege of using those words should probably be taken from him.
I would love to be able to regulate the content of speech.
Myself and Alicia in particular are trained Marxists.
I hope someone kills your whole fucking family.
That wasn't me, homie.
I hope they kill you too. I hope someone burns down your whole precinct with all y'all inside. Can't wait to see it.
Hi everyone. As many of you know, my name is Millicent Sinclair. I am an Afro-Indigenous, non-binary local organizer here in Portland, organizing for the abolition of not just the militarized police state, but also the United States as we know.
You have in a city block in Seattle, multiple city blocks taken over by anarchists. It's amazing. You have the Seattle Police Chief Carmen Best saying, quote, "Our 911 response times have tripled in the area. They've gone from just over 5 minutes to about 18 minutes. There have been rapes, robberies, and all sorts of violent acts that have been occurring."
There is a disturbing pattern we've seen throughout history with totalitarian systems of government. The leaders first seek to disarm the population, then they encourage goon squads to suppress opposing voices. And finally, once they have disarmed and silenced the opposition, these authoritarian leaders institute policies that root out and crush freedom in every form. Unfortunately, the American left has been infected with this same totalitarian desire to remove firearms and silence opposing views as part of a campaign to achieve its political ends. We've seen this scenario play out in every major Democrat-run city in America. Progressive leaders push to disarm law-abiding Americans to further their influence while watching as crime rates soar. We even saw failed presidential and Senate candidate Beto O'Rourke proudly tell Americans, "Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15 and your AK-47. Now the American left is actively cheering as its fascist militia Antifa rages in the streets.
Do you disavow the violence from Antifa that's happening in Portland right now? There's riots.
That's a myth that's being spread only in Washington, D.C.
About Antifa in Portland?
Yes.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist.
That's a myth. That's a myth. That's a myth.
plans or tactics, and I don't think they'll know it because they're not prepared for what we're planning.
Here, you're gonna take the knife. How much of
we got 2 AKs coming.
Protests, violence, riots, calling everyone a Nazi. This is the MO of Antifa. We've all seen it, but the media, politicians, and academia all defend, deflect, or completely deny.
They are strictly principled anti-fascists.
What we saw were some brave people risking their lives.
That group protests fascism. Maybe their tactics weren't exactly right. It's messy.
Antifa are people who go and they try to push back on these guys, but it is not the case that they are going around building an armed movement.
Fascism cannot be defeated through speech. You need to take it with the utmost seriousness before it's too late.
Black Lives Matter, the Antifa movement, is interested in preserving the fabric of America.
To understand what their tactics are, understand that Antifa is now in a PR battle. So what they claim and what they do are two very different things.
Plain clothes and our tactics, and I don't think they'll know what hit them because they're not prepared for what we're planning.
Despite wanting to put distance between themselves and Antifa, and despite what resident gay Asian SJW in chief George Takei tweets out, Antifa has never operated alone. They've been actively supported by professors and other leftist and student organizations. For example, current University of Utah faculty like Cindy Geraldine Solomon Kleppa and Alinda McKenna encouraged and emboldened students to disrupt the Ben Shapiro event and to create chaos.
People like Ben Shapiro are the most dangerous people on this earth. And we're going to fight him tomorrow, aren't we? Yes.
Solidarity! And student organizations like the Students for a Democratic Society, because that's the thing, not only work alongside Antifa when convenient, but work with them to scope out police and even to provide pseudo-security by committing acts of violence.
Here, you're gonna take the knife. How much of you think you got?
I have like on the border between just a regular rifle and an assault weapon and a sawed-off style shotgun.
And then I've got a handgun. Yeah, we got 2 AKs coming.
The willingness to respond with violence, the way that I would address what you were just asking about is I don't want to disavow an ally within the movement. The no pictures, that part, I would say it's understandable given what I was just talking about with anonymity.
What you gonna do?
They're allowed to commit violence against anyone filming them. And just how violent can they get?
If you go down to like the military surplus store, the Navy surplus store, whatever, you can get like a K-bar for like $30-40. And it's just a combat knife. It's a fixed blade, 5 inches or so, but it's just you strap it on your leg and you're good to go. I mean, this one's like tiny, so you have to really stab them. Yeah, like last stitch is gonna be lure them down here.
Whoa, hold. Luring people to their cars with sawed-off shotguns and handing out knives and shivs. These folks aren't playing a game anymore. This is serious violence.
Myth. That's a myth. That's a myth.
I do have all these people. Like him. Because we're fucking done with people like you. I have your opinion.
What if I told you that this has all happened before? The riots, the violence, church burning, attacks on police, destruction of private property. All in the name of equality. What is the deadliest thing mankind has ever encountered in world history? Is it disease? Famine? Nuclear weapons? Not even close. By sheer body count, it's an idea. This is the story of the deadliest virus in the world, communism. The year is 1848. Europe is burning. Political upheaval leads to mass violent riots in over 50 countries. Buildings burned, shops are looted, and national militias are called in to quell the mob. Sound familiar? This year, an obscure socialist named Karl Marx publishes the Communist Manifesto. The Communist Manifesto outlines how to destroy capitalism and usher in communism through the means of socialism. To accomplish this goal, the manifesto pits 2 groups against each other based on their identity. Bourgeois versus proletariat. Essentially, business owners versus the workers of that business. See, identity hatred is the key component that makes communism work.
The history of all hitherto existing society is the history of class struggles, Marx writes.
Today, we would call this identity politics. The principle is the same. Define people by their groups and pit them against each other with a perceived injustice, and then violence.
Marx embraces violence. He calls for the forcible overthrow of all existing social conditions and for the common ruin of the classes.
What we are left with after this violent class warfare is a communist state. Marx spells out plainly what this looks like.
Complete state ownership of your life. No private property. High taxes, government control of communications and media, government jobs for workers, government income for all workers, mandatory government education, and government that supersedes the church in power.
These are the programs that the left is pushing today, nearly 200 years after the writing of the Communist Manifesto. And they're using identity politics and, yes, violence to do it. Remember, this is about power and control.
In 1917, Marx's ideas got their big shot. Vladimir Lenin was a Russian Marxist living in exile in Switzerland during World War I. Lenin believed wholeheartedly in communism and saw the Russian political upheaval during the war as his shot to create a communist state. Shockingly, when Lenin asked the German military for passage to Russia in the midst of a war between the two countries, Germany enthusiastically said yes.
The Germans treated Lenin and his communism as a deadly weapon to be used against their Russian enemy, a virus to infect the opponent and cripple them.
The Germans agreed to transport Lenin across the front lines into Russia, but only via a sealed train, so Lenin and his virus could not break out into Germany.
Unleashing the deadly weapon of communism on the Russian people was a horrifically effective tactic. As soon as Lenin arrived in Russia, he began to employ identity politics and social justice as a potent tool in his civil war. Lenin told his armed revolutionaries in 1918,
"Comrade, hang, and I mean hang so that the people can see, not less than 100 known rich men. Do this so that for hundreds of miles around the people can see, tremble, know, and cry. They are killing and will go on killing."
Lenin won using identity politics to pit groups against each other, incite violence, create anarchy, and then the virus took hold.
Private property and businesses were immediately dissolved. Freedom of speech eliminated. Individual freedoms crushed. Economic collapse. Famine. Starvation. Secret police raids. Millions of Russians sent to concentration camps.
More people were sent to concentration camps in communist Russia than in Nazi Germany. In spite of practiced horrors in Russia, communism spread, and always by force.
Eastern Europe, China, Vietnam, Cambodia, North Korea, Cuba, and parts of Africa fell to communist revolutions and dictators.
It's critical to note, this mass death is not caused by foreign forces, but from within. Communism kills in the name of equality. They kill their own people. Communists do not care. They are indifferent to the suffering. Man-made famines and mass starvation in concentration camps are the norm, the cost of social justice. The death toll numbers under communism are staggering.
Eastern Europe, 1 million. Vietnam, 1 million. Afghanistan, 1.5 million. Africa, 1.7 million. North Korea, 2 million. Cambodia, 2 million. Soviet Russia, 20 million people.
But nowhere is the genocidal, sociopathic bloodlust of communism more evident than the dark history of communist China. China became a communist state in 1949 after a bloody, prolonged civil war led by Mao Zedong. After becoming a communist dictator, Mao joked about the killing of business owners in his own country. 30 million people.
We have so many people. We can afford to lose a few. Mao's attempt to industrialize China, known as the Great Leap Forward, murdered more than 45 million people in a few short years, many simply from starvation.
A total of 65 million Chinese nationals were murdered under Mao's communism. Mao kept power in spite of the genocide. Communists never give up power, ever.
They don't have to. The state is God and you are nothing. Mao's political party remains in power in China to this day, and they exercise an ironclad grip on its people.
The Communist Party of China's failed response to the coronavirus cost many innocent people their lives.
The virus outbreak, most likely from incompetent management of their own viral labs, was made exponentially worse by the communist regime's inability to admit wrongdoing and warn the rest of the world. These actions directly led to the global spread of the deadly virus, resulting in the deaths of tens of thousands of Americans.
But as always, with communism, the worst is yet to come. Many of the organized leftists torching American cities are Marxists. They admit it, they say so, and they are practicing the tenets of communism to the letter.
We are trained Marxists. We are super versed on sort of ideological theories.
Use identity and class division to destroy private property in the name of justice. Demonize capitalists. Publicly persecute those who disagree with you. Incite violence and seize power and control.
In 1932, Stalinist-backed communists in Germany formed a group to violently clash with police, terrorize the public, and physically assault their political enemies in the street. The name of that group?
Antifasciste Aktion, Antifa. This was their symbol. Their tactics have now moved to our streets, and so have their motivations.
Vladimir Lenin and Karl Marx both agreed. The goal of socialism is communism. Power and control. It is always about power and control. What is happening right now in America is not new. In fact, it's centuries old. The tactics are meant to bewilder you and make you question your institutions. They're meant to divide us and raise what we know as America to the ground. It's a revolution by the deadliest virus known to man. Communism. You can't kill an idea, but ideas can kill you. We must fight this virus to survive.